Alright, today we're going to take a look at your Chapter 9 formative. I'm going to help you through some of the problems here as you see on my screen. So problem number 1 said shuttle spacesuit including life support weighs about 310 pounds. If an astronaut weighs 183 pounds, how much will she weigh when she's wearing her shuttle suit? Show your work. So if she weighs 183 pounds plus the 310 pounds from the life support system, she's going to weigh 493 pounds while she is wearing her suit. So those two things combined together, 493 pounds. Letter B, define variables for the weight of an astronaut and the weight of an astronaut wearing her shuttle suit. So they tell you what variables you need to define. So you need to make sure that you lay that out accordingly. So you can see for mine I said let A equal the weight of an astronaut and let S equal the weight of an astronaut wearing a space shuttle suit. Now 310, that's the constant. That's what a life support system and a space suit weigh together, and that's not going to change. So that is constant. You see I labeled that under numbers or letter C, where it asks you to write an equation that models the relationship. So we'd have 310 plus A, and that's going to equal S. 310 plus A again the weight of the astronaut, equals S, the weight of an astronaut wearing a space shuttle suit. For the next section, use the equation from part C to complete the table below. So if you're given the astronaut's weight, you can see my work, you just have to add that to 310 to get the total. So 162 plus 310 equals 472 pounds total. If you're given the weight of an astronaut with the shuttle suit, you have to subtract the constant. So 488 minus 310 will give you a total of 178 pounds. That's how much the astronaut weighs. For 200, add 310, and you have a total of 510. And then for the next one, 437 is the total. You subtract 310, and you're left with 127. The last one, 456 pounds, again subtract 310, and you're left with 146 pounds that astronaut weighed. So then you need to plot those on the graph. Now the little squiggly marks on the left-hand side, remember that means that the graph is skipping all the numbers up before that. So in this case they don't have to write in 0 through 350, okay, or 360, excuse me. You know, they skip that part so that they can start at 360 and have you have and the ability to provide you with a much easier to read graph. So make sure your graph is plotted accordingly. Alright, the next page, Student Standard 2, Precision. You need to graph the solution set for each inequality. So x is greater than or equal to 16. Greater than or equal to, remember that's indicated by the closed circle, and it's greater than or equal to 16, so the arrow's pointing past 16 towards 17, 18, 19, and beyond. The next one, x is less than 5 2/3, so open circle, because 5 2/3 is not included, and x is everything less than 5 2/3. In the next section, write the inequality represented by each graph. So in this case, x is greater than or equal to 5.5. Closed circle, meaning it can be equal to 5.5, and then arrow pointing to the right, meaning greater than or equal to. The next one, x is less than or equal to 1. Closed circle on 1, meaning 1 is included in that solution set, and arrow pointing to the left, which means all numbers less than 1 are also included in the solution set. And the last one, x is greater than 0, open circle at 0, arrow pointing to the right, meaning all numbers greater than 0. Okay, so that was the second part. The next section, for each equation, state the inverse operation needed to isolate the variable and solve the equation. Remember, the inverse operation is the operation that can undo the other. So in this case, you have subtraction as your operation. The operation that can undo it is addition. So for the problem, in order to isolate the variable, you'd add 27 to both sides, and that allows you to leave the equation equivalent, and x is equal to 83. The next one, 6y equals 42. The opposite of division, or the operation to undo multiplication, is division. So 6y divided by 6 and 42 divided by 6, so y will equal 7. So getting y by itself. And then the last one, 3 1/3 plus w equals 4 5/9. So that's going to be subtraction. Now on all of these, you have to make sure that you're showing all the steps. In order to get full credit, you need to show all the steps. So subtract 3 1/3 from each side, and w equals 1 2/9. You'd also have to convert 3 1/3 to 3 3/9 in order to do that subtraction, to get that common denominator. All right. The last two problems are the justification problems. The first one says, is y equal 5 a solution set to the equation 4 6/10 times y equals 23? Justify your reasoning. So you can see my work there. 4 6/10 multiplied by 5, and that ends up equaling 23, because 5 multiplied by 6/10 is equal to 3, and 5 multiplied by 4 equals 20. Put them together is 23. And then to check it, I divide it. So 23 divided by 4 6/10 also equals 5. So two ways to check there. Now, how would I turn this into a write-up? You can take a look at my screen here as I switch. This would be my justification. So it says 5 is a solution to the equation 4 6/10 multiplied by y equals 23. I know this because I substituted 5 into the equation for y. After the substitution, I performed the operation of multiplication, which was multiplying 4 6/10 by 5. Based on my calculations, 4 6/10 multiplied by 5, the product equals 23. So very specific vocab. Don't leave things out. Thus, 5 is a solution to the equation. Another way to prove this, so here's going a little bit above and beyond, another way to prove it, proving it in multiple ways. You should and can do this yourself. So make sure you do prove things multiple ways. Another way to prove this is by isolating the variable by using the inverse operation. Since the inverse operation of multiplication is division, I would divide by 4 6/10 on both sides of the equation. I can do this based on the division property of equality that states if A equals B, then A divided by C equals B divided by C. The division isolates the variable, leaving y by itself. When you divide 23 by 4 6/10, the quotient equals 5. Again, proving, not proven, proving that 5 is a solution to the equation. Okay. Now the second problem here said, state the property of equality you would use to balance and solve this equation. The problem was like this on the formative. You need to make sure that you are reviewing those properties of equality. So we have h minus 12 and 1500 equals 37 and 7/10. Justify your reasoning. Now, if you know your vocab, you'd know that the property of equality that you would use would be addition. because the addition property of equality states that if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. So in this case, h minus 12 and 1500ths, that equals A. And 37 and 7/10 equals B, as I've shown on my sheet here. So A plus 12 and 1500ths equals B plus 12 and 1500ths. So those things are equivalent. So now let's take a look at my justification. The property of equality that would balance the equation is addition. The addition property of equality states if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. If we look at our equation, h minus 12 and 1500ths equals 37 and 7/10. The equation is currently balanced. In other words, one side of the equation equals the other. If we add 12 and 1500ths to both sides of the equation, we would be using the addition property of equality. In this case, A equals h minus 12 and 1500ths and B equals 37 and 7/10. Both A and B are equal to one another, just as the property states. If we add the same amount to both sides, 12 and 1500ths, the equation remains balanced. In this problem, we are trying to isolate the variable in order to determine the value of h. Adding 12 and 1500ths to both sides accomplishes this. The addition eliminates the subtraction, leaving h by itself, and when you add 12 and 1500ths to 37 and 7/10, the sum equals 49 and 8500ths. Therefore, you would use addition property of equality to solve this problem. Right, so those are two equality justifications. Make sure you take some time to review that. Think about all the different types of vocabulary words that I used in my justifications, and ask yourself whether you can use those words on your own. If you can't, you need to study a little bit more. All right? Take some time, get prepared for the justification tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you then. Have a good night.